Welcome to This Organized Life. If you're a mom, wife, or coffee lover seeking advice on how to reduce clutter and reclaim time, look no further than your host, Lori Palau, founder of Simply Be Organized and author of Hot Mess, a practical guide to getting organized. For a lot of people, clutter is their dirty little secret, but it doesn't have to be. Each week, we will share practical tips, chat with experts, and provide strategies on how to keep you organized. I hope that by sharing our stories, you feel a little less alone and more empowered to tackle the areas that are holding you back. So let's get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life. I am your host, Lori Palau, and I cannot believe that we are finally, I don't even know about finally, but that we are at the end of July. I feel like the summer was just kicking off, and here we are already like moving full speed ahead into August. And before you know it, kids are going to be back to school. So I don't even want to think about that. But I do want to mention, speaking of the future, that there are a few spots remaining, I believe, at least at the time of this recording, for our starting a professional organizing cohort. It's our business mentoring group where I'm going to be teaching and training you on how to start your own professional organizing business. So if this is something that you are maybe in a period of transition, your kids are going off to school, you're thinking about starting a side hustle, you maybe want to change careers, you have a passion for organizing, you just don't know how to go about doing it strategically, our 8-week training was designed for you. And what I love about our training, not to be biased, is that it is live and in person. So this isn't just modules that you're downloading and watching on your own without any personal accountability. You literally are going to be taught by yours truly. There's going to be other people in the group that are in similar situations. And at the conclusion of the 8 weeks, you have the opportunity to join our SBO partner program, which is our group of professional organizers from all over the country. And we even have professional organizers in other parts of the world. So they're people who we trust, endorse, and support in for anybody out there looking for professional organizers. So it's not just a training program, but it's a way to help you grow and market your business too. So if any of this sounds like something that you'd be interested in, like I said, at the time of this recording, there are still some spots open. You can go to our website to visit more. There's also going to be a link in the show notes, simplybeorganized.com. But there's also, if you still have questions, you can hop on a discovery call with me free of charge. It's a quick call to answer any questions. You can tell me a little bit about kind of where you are in the journey, and we'll let you know if we think that the program's a good fit for you. But we are here to support you in your efforts, because as I always say, there are more disorganized people than there are organized people. So if you are somebody that has that gift, that knack to help other people, we want to help you figure out a way that you can do that. So anyway, now on to today's show. So the topic for this show came to me this weekend as I was working on my own projects for Simply Be Organized. And the name of the show is Do You Feel Out of Control? And the reason that I'm calling it that is because I had my own out of control moment this weekend. So without going into like too much boring details, we're doing some back end business audits, not financial audits, but business audit of like systems and things about what's working, what's not working, things that we might want to change, pivot, improve on, all the things. And in doing this, I was looking to get access to a lot of our information that we have digitally. And we talk all about digital clutter being a stressor of people. And you know that I always talk about the ease of retrieval, being able to find what you're looking for quickly, is being part of the organizing process. So in my effort to kind of take my own advice, I was pulling up a lot of information that I could get to our business analyst and, get all the information. And I started looking at things and I was finding what I was looking for, but I knew that there were some things that were just a little bit out of whack. And it started to allow me to feel, or I started to feel really stressed and anxious and frustrated. And like I felt this legit loss of control. Like, not, I wasn't like freaking out, having a tantrum, but internally, I just felt very disconnected. I don't know how else to explain it, but I just felt very disconnected. And I knew at that moment that this was probably something that a lot of you experience, whether you're experiencing it in the way that I was when you were kind of looking to kind of do this information gathering thing and it was digitally, or in your physical spaces. So I spent the better part of earlier today, prior to hitting record, doing a lot of research because, of course, I'm a little bit of a data nerd about control and what does that look like and what does it mean and the psychological aspects of control and what happens when we start to feel out of control. And why is control so important to us? And how do some people kind of abuse that and use control to almost weaponize it? Like, how can control be a good thing and a bad thing at the same time? So I thought we could just kind of walk through together some of the, I'll call them pros and cons of using control, using your powers for good versus using them for evil, right? So you think of the evil control of like that sleeping with the enemy with all of the jars facing the same direction and like nothing out of place, right? We don't want to go to that extreme. We're not swinging the pendulum. But what happens to us emotionally, psychologically, when our things are out of control? And again, when your things, that could be your digital things, it could be your physical things, it could be all of the things on your to-do list, whatever it is, when you feel out of control. So what does control do for us? It provides us this sense of ownership and responsibility, right? When you feel in control of something, you feel like I've got this, right? I know what I'm doing. I have my rubric. I know where things go. I know what I'm supposed to do. I have my plan of action and I can execute that. And what happens when we have that sense of control and that sense of ownership? It improves our confidence, right? We feel confident. We stand taller, we walk taller, and our cortisol levels are regulated. We are not feeling stressed and anxious. When we don't have that sense of control, when we feel like things are happening to us or around us, then we all of a sudden feel stressed and anxious and frustrated. Our cortisol levels rise. That's when we become, snippy and angry, and we lash out at the people closest to us. And a lot of times that is strictly the result of us feeling like we are not in control of our environment or what's happening to us. And so when you look at this in the sense of organizing, and you think about your physical space, your emotional well-being, your calendars, all of the different facets that we talk about when it comes to organizing, and you look at what are some of the other, like, what can we do to help find that balance, right? That balance of control and flexibility, knowing that things aren't going to always go our way, but we also want to have some predictability. We want to have some routines in place so that we don't have those feelings of life is happening to us. And so I think the first thing is to recognize that the majority of things that happen to us, we don't really have a ton of control over. But what we do have control over is creating some semblance of a routine and predictability. And organizing allows us that gateway to do that. And so I know that for so many people, when they're feeling stressed, think about a time that, you felt like completely out of control in your life, whether it was, somebody was sick and there was nothing you could do about it. You have a job loss. There's all of these like external factors that are stressing you out. There's a group of people, me being one of them, that will go and do something. And it could be organizing a closet or a drawer. Some people will go out and do gardening. Some people will go tinker in their car, but you'll do something that will give you a sense of control, whatever that is. For me, it's organizing, but for some people, it might be gardening or, something else that allows you to feel like I am reclaiming control in a world that is spiraling around me. Now, on the flip side, when I see people that don't have organizing as a skill set in their toolbox and they are stressed and overwhelmed, the reverse happens is they will shut down, and then that semblance of organization in their home goes sideways. So when I walk into somebody's house, people are like, "Oh, do you judge?" I'm like, "No, I don't judge anybody." If I walk into your home and I see things completely disorganized, I will, the first question I will ask is, what part of your life do you currently feel is out of control? That is one of the first questions that I will ask, because 9 times out of 10, disorganization in the home is tied to some disconnect when it comes to control. And again, maybe it's you've got a lot going on your plate and you just haven't had time to, you know, create the right system and strategy to maintain this organized space. And if that's the case, that's pretty easy, because then we can just create a system, say, okay, where is this breaking down? And I just actually met with a client not too long ago, and her system surrounding laundry was broken. It was just a broken system. And all she needed to do was go in there and make a few edits and evaluate kind of where things broke down. And once she was able to change or modify those things, then all of a sudden this broken system started working again. So it's just a matter of identifying it. So is your system broken because it just needs some tweaking, or are you feeling out of control because there's something bigger going on in your life? And we want to, again, remember that control is an illusion. Most of us don't have control over the bigger picture of things. But when it comes to routine, humans crave predictability. And so if you can do things such as, getting up with an ample amount of time to get done your whatever morning routine, you can go to bed at a decent hour so that you can try to get a good night's sleep. Those are certain things. You can eat healthy meals. You can do meal prep. These are things that you can control. You can control, if I know that I'm going to have, a long day ahead of me, what can I do to plan ahead? And that's really about reclaiming control and reclaiming some ownership for your day so that you're in that proactive driver's seat versus being reactive. And again, we want to talk about what are the steps? What are the steps that we can do to allow us to feel like we have some semblance of ownership over what happens to us versus things just happening to us and we have no say? And if you have a good system in place, then being able to adapt and be flexible with how the timeline of how things are executed or when they're executed or who's executing them will make it easier for you to be adaptable and not have that impact your stress levels and feeling out of control. And if you can look at all of these different moving parts of feeling out of control and say, where is the breakdown coming from? Because oftentimes what we feel stressed and anxious about isn't really the the epicenter. When I talk about clutter, I say the pile of paper isn't the problem. It's what's happening behind that. It's 3 steps prior to that is oftentimes what the problem is. Your kid not wanting to do their homework isn't necessarily a homework issue. It's all of the other things that are leading up to it. So again, when we're feeling out of control, it's about looking at what's happening to us and what is the role of organization. How is that helping us or hurting us? Because oftentimes people will use control as hyper, like they clutch it so tightly where they have to overly control a situation. And that's not healthy either. That is where we go swinging the pendulum the other way. If we are trying to control every variable, that is a fool's errand. You cannot do that. There's just no possible way that you're going to be able to control every variable of a situation. And so having that kind of gray area, that little leeway, and just saying, I'm using this as a framework, as a guardrail for me, is a healthy way to approach an organizing system that is going to allow you the freedom to feel in control, but not be controlled by the system. Does that make sense? Okay. So again, just to recap, we want to talk about, we're looking at the psychological aspects of feeling out of control. Feeling in control means that we have a sense of ownership and responsibility over something. And so when we lose that, that's when we fall into patterns of stress, anxiety, frustration, overwhelm, all of those things. Now, again, control is all about balance, balancing that flexibility between what you have ownership of and what is going to happen. So we can't be, we can't let it get to us if there's traffic or, we have technical difficulties. There's things that are always going to go sideways. So if we hold our expectations firmly, but yet loosely, and I know that sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron, but you want to have your firm boundaries. We want to have that, but know that things are going to go not according to plan. And so we have to be able to roll with those punches, is a healthy way for you to maintain your own level of regularity, emotional regulation, so that you don't feel out of control, so that when things do go sideways, you don't go sideways. So again, if you're feeling out of control, you're not alone. The summer is a time where a lot of us have time to reflect, look at the things, because we aren't in go mode the way that we are at other times of the year. And when you actually take the time to look under the hood, that's when you start to see all the things that maybe aren't working exactly the way that you want them to. And that's sometimes hard. It's a hard look in the mirror, but that's how we improve, right? By looking at here, what is broken or what needs fixing. And once it's fixed, then we'll be operating smoothly. But we just have to get those little kinks out of the way so that we can have our systems run on autopilot and feel like we have some ownership over what's going on in our lives. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I know I am taking my own advice by looking at the parts of my life where I feel like a little bit out of control, what practices I can put into place to start to feel like I'm more in control. Maybe it's reading more, maybe it's taking some more walks, drinking more water, being a little bit more proactive about doing some of the hard things that I don't like to do, like decluttering certain, my computer or other parts of my home that I don't necessarily want to do, but I know ultimately once I do them, I'll feel so much better. So if you're feeling that way, just know that you're not alone. And if you have any questions about any organizing areas that you're struggling with, feel free to fill out our Ask an Expert questionnaire. We're happy to put you on the air or answer your question for you. If you don't feel like coming on the show, we'd love to help you. So until next week, I'm Lori Plow. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please spread the love and share it with your friends. And if this is your first time joining us, make sure to click the subscribe button wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, please leave us a review so other people know that our show is worth the listen. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at This Organized Life Podcast. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can head on over to our website at simply the letter B like boy organized.com, which is filled with tons of resources, including free downloads, checklists, links to our amazing organizing partners, and all of our digital offerings. I'll see you next week for another episode of This Organized Life.